No, what we're going to be covering now is not that level of crazy. It's a different level of crazy. Apparently, somebody who thinks viruses don't exist, despite the fact that we can literally see viruses under a microscope, and we know what they look like. We know what a bacteriophage looks like. We have literally all the information required to ascertain that viruses, that is, non-living organisms comprised of DNA and RNA, exist. Right? Okay, cool. But let's go ahead and get into the fan art section, and then we'll talk about this kind of crazy stuff. First one we have here is from Aziel, and it is a Gur unit Suris from Invader Zim. So they call it Suris. Ha 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 ha. And then from Pernica, said a big fan of the videos. Nya, leaving this wonderful piece. I really like the eye detail. I am a sucker for eye detail. And I am a fan of all of this stuff. With that said, though, as always, if you guys want your fan art to be shown on any of the videos that go onto YouTube, the best way to do so is dropping them into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and read this article. We'll go ahead and call it that. I'm sure that's a loose word for what it is. We use cookies on our website. I guess I have to accept the cookies despite this not looking safe. Okay. So, this is from the Wicked Truths website. It says, viruses do not exist. It says, I guess we'll do this in the Tristan Taylor voice. I guess that's what we're doing today.
We are taught that there are infectious microorganisms that can enter our bodies and make us sick. This view on illness is called germ theory. Though widely taught and accepted, there is no scientific evidence for it.
Germ under a microscope. Right. Pretty sure we've got quite a few images of what germs look like under microscopes. In fact, actually, let's go ahead and look at a bacteriophage under a microscope. I love how these things look. Bacteriophages look gnarly. Look at these things. Look at these things. These things look fucking cool. Let me go ahead and open that image alone so that I can... Yep, there we are. This is a bacteriophage. Again, I think they look neat. But, yeah, no. The reason that we know what these things look like is because we've seen them under a microscope. Continuing on.
There's another view on illness which sees bacteria and viruses as essential players in symbiosis with our cells in our bodies. Illnesses originate from internal and external environmental toxicity and poor diet. This is called terrain theory.
Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at what terrain theory is. Germ theory denialism is alive and well, and taking the nuance. Germ theory denialism. Let's go ahead and look at that Wikipedia article. And we have the terrain theory here. So there are earlier non-germ theories, in addition to the earlier ideas of miasma, which was focused on spontaneous generation, which we found out through things like pasteurization did not happen. The idea that living matter could arise from non-living. Then there's terrain theory, which is a variation of Bekomp's ideas. Pasteur disproved spontaneous generation with a series of experiments. Yeah, I just mentioned pasteurization. Understanding the cause of sickness does not always immediately lead to effective treatment. Okay, so it just gives a passing mention to terrain theory here. Let's go ahead and see what is said in the actual article itself here. Meioasma. Jeebus Christ. Harmful and non-harmful bacteria existing and still coexist with germ theory. Yeah, no. Like, the idea that there are harmful and non-harmful bacteria is already accounted for in germ theory. Like, you have gut bacteria that you have to keep fed.
A word of clarification on the statement, viruses do not exist, is needed. What the medical establishment claims to be viruses are manifestations of our own bodies that happens when there's an insult.
Hey, arm, you fucking blow ass. Okay, is there going to be some manifestations now? Am I going to get viruses spontaneously just, like, growing in my arm because I insulted it? Is that what you mean? Is that... Because, like, I don't know what this means.
They are a reaction to toxins, a defense mechanism. They're not the cause of illness, but the solution, created inside and by the body to solve a specific problem, and they are not transmissible.
Alright. So this basically views viruses as your body's secondary response. Okay. Problem. The secondary response in our bodies, the reaction to illnesses that happen in them, yeah, that secondary response isn't transferable, unless you consider, vaccinations. And even then, that's still just generating a secondary response in the other bodies. Viruses themselves cause diseases. Diseases, once in the body, are reacted to by your body's primary response, which is basically data collection, and then the secondary response, which is your body sending things to attack the illness itself. That's what happens in your body, in layman's terms. When you say that the medical establishment claims that there are viruses, but that those are actually manifestations in our own body, there's a problem here. One, you can't manifest things like this. They don't come out spontaneously. Two, again, we know what viruses look like. We know exactly what viruses look like. They are a thing that we understand to at least some degree. When you try to argue that they don't exist, but I can look at a virus right now, not counting the times I've been able to look at shit under a microscope when I was in chemistry class, you're going to have to come up with more than just the establishment claims it.
We know they're not transmissible because scientists tried to infect healthy people with the Spanish flu using fluids from the sick. They squirted fluids in the nose, throat, and even injected it. The healthy did not took ill. Do you have an editor? Please tell me you have an editor. Also, let's see what their source is for this. Okay, so we have here experiments to determine mode of spread of influenza. Let me go ahead and see here, because I don't see... Okay, so this is from W.H. Frost, surgeon, U.S. Public Health Service. Let's look up this incident here. Determining the spread of Spanish flu. How did the Spanish flu get spread? As the U.S. had entered World War I, the disease spread from Camp Funston, a major training ground for troops, to other U.S. Army camps in and Europe, becoming an epidemic. That doesn't tell me exactly how it spread. Let's go back to the article itself here. Proposal: established practitioners agree without research or thesis to open to serious objectives. It would sacrifice scholarship in favor of skill, and thus yield an unbalanced and undesirable type of specialism. This feels like there should be more here. Just 3 pages here doesn't feel like a lot. Experiments at Portsmouth. Holidays came, material was exhausted. We temporarily suspended our work. In fact, we felt rather surprised and somewhat perplexed. And we're not. The next day, wait a turn, and we felt... Okay.
Like specific records during great epidemics, there are abundant, if not exact, records of prevalence, and resulting mortality can be determined with fair precision, even though a large portion of the deaths are classified under diagnosis other than influenza. In the intervals between epidemics, influenza becomes inextricably confused with other respiratory diseases, having a general clinical resemblance but no definite etiological entity, so that the record of prevalence and even of mortality is virtually lost. The first requisites for epidemiology study, namely clear different diagnostic and systemic. Wait, hold on. Why does this only have part of the paper? Why does this only have part of the paper? Because it should... It just ends at furnishes Anne. But on this paper specifically, it says, I think we must be careful not to draw any positive conclusions from negative results of this kind. Many factors must be considered. Our volunteers may not have been susceptible. They may have been immune. They had been exposed, as all the rest of us, to the people who'd been exposed to the disease, although they gave no clinical history of an attack. Okay, so... Hold on. I know what's happening here. I see what's happening here. So, the writer of this article, whoever the fuck it is, what they're trying to do is they are trying to say that because of this specific instance, from this specific paper, with a specific strain of influenza, because of our inability to transmit that specific strain in a specific time to other people, we therefore know that all diseases are not transmissible. All viruses are not transmissible. What? That's not how science works. You can't take a single example and then use this to paint what is supposed to be the norm for every sickness ever. Yeah, that's what the cherry picker is doing, specifically. What they're doing specifically is they're taking this paper here, which I can't even see the actual name of the paper. I guess it's this part here, Experiments to Determine the Mode of Spread of Influenza by Milton J. Rosenew. It's taking this paper and the conclusion where they said that they were not able to infect their colleagues with the virus. They're using that to say that all viruses are not transmissible. That's what they're trying to say. They then go to say that
the idea of a virus as an infectious particle in the air or fluids causing infection of illnesses is false. That does not exist. At the very least, decent science to prove the notion does not exist.
Again, we literally... COVID under a microscope. Images. Zoom on coronavirus. A closer look at the deadly pathogen. Let's take a look here. Oh boy. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that we can see what the virus looks like? We can look at it under a microscope as we are right here. And yet, you come to this conclusion here. This is how you get anti-vaxxers. When you get something that looks like science, it looks like it. You even had a citation. But you improperly used the citation. You came to a conclusion with the citation that literally cannot be reached. And yeah, they're referencing a paper written in 1919, I believe. Let's double check and see if there is a date here. Is it from 1889 to present? What is the age here? Was downloaded from university on 2015, but that's not when the research was done. Yeah, August 2nd, 1919. They're using a scientific paper from 1919 100 years ago and trying to come to that conclusion. Moronicus Dipshiticus III, who wrote this article, I don't. I'm gonna look at the history section real quick, and then we're gonna look at the comments on this before I go off. Yeah, 102 years to be exact. This is data that would be considered very out of date.
Around 1900 to 1930, scientists weren't at all decided on which theory was correct. Germ theory took root after...
Nope. 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 I see what's next. No. I'm gone. I'm gone. Nope. 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 Nope! I'm not... No. Why? Why would I even entertain the rest of what I'm seeing there? Because it's always this, isn't it? It always ends up being this. Where they go, oh no, look, the Rockefellers did it. Wahahaha. I'm done. I did not jump far enough. I have not actually escaped this article. Okay. Fuck it, I guess we're reading the rest of it.
Around 1900 to 1930, scientists weren't all that decided on which theory was correct. Germ theory took root after Rockefeller-funded germ theory advocate Louis Pasteur won the discussion by presenting fraudulent proof of infection against terrain theory to advocate Becamp.
Do you have a citation for that? Because, like, you had a citation here, but when you say Louis Pasteur gave fraudulent proof of infection here, I want a citation. I want evidence. That would be useful.
Another nail in the terrain theory coffin was the Rockefeller-funded Carnegie Flexner Report, which weaponized politics in favor of centralized, drug-based medicine against natural medicine. It was a hostile takeover!
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to mention it. I'm gonna have to mention it. This is just the Jews ruined science. That's all this is. Like, literally, the whole argument here is just the globalist Jews ruined science. That's what they're fucking saying. And of course, they have the Flexner report here. At least they had a citation for this, right? So that's cool. I'm glad that you guys at least had a citation for that. Kind of sucked you didn't have a citation for the, this part right here, which would have been really useful.
Why would somebody want this falsehood sustained? Fear for organisms invading your body, cells, drugs, and vaccines. Viruses also provide a cover explanation when people get sick from environmental toxicity or to perpetrate a pandemic power grab for totalitarian control.
Alright, so let me go and say right now, a government can use a pandemic for totalitarian control with or without this bullshit. Just throwing that out there. Probably important to note. Secondly, and most importantly, this is unironically the fucking "they suppress our medicine so they can sell us their cures" meme. That is all this is. That is all this is. And then it shows proponents of terrain theory in 2021. Oh, cool. So we've got just a list of quacks. Excellent. Do they explain how we had pandemics before drug-based medicine? No, they don't, because they're stupid. We'd all be cured by creative use of horse paste if it weren't for Soros.
We'd all be cured by creative use of horse paste if it weren't for George Soros and Bill Gates. Those monsters! Those murdering monsters!
Fucking gotta Alex Jones it up in here. Jesus Christ. Mizotaku, you can always send a link. It's fine. So they didn't provide evidence for the fraudulent arguments against terrain theory. They didn't provide any evidence, proof positive for terrain theory, and they cherry-picked a singular piece of data from 1919 to argue in favor of their position. And then, of course, Mizo has here an entire thing. Oh my god, no, I just continue to cite an entire citation on germ theory of medicine from Encyclopedia Britannica. Germ theory in medicine is the theory that certain diseases are caused by the invasion in the body of microorganisms. Organisms too small to be seen except through a microscope. The French chemist and microbiologist Louis Pasteur, the English surgeon Joseph Lister, and the German physician Robert Koch are given much of the credit for development of the acceptance of the theory. In the mid-19th century, Pasteur showed that fermentation and putrefaction are caused by organisms and the air. In 1860s, Lister revolutionized surgical practice by utilizing carbolic acid to exclude atmospheric germs and thus prevent putrefaction in compound fractures of bones. And in the 1880s, Koch identified the organisms that caused tuberculosis and cholera. Although germ theory has long been considered proved, its full implications for medical practice were not immediately apparent. Blood-stained frock coats were considered suitable operating room attire even in the late 1870s, and surgeons operating without masks or head coverings as late as the 1890s. Yeah, germ theory's old. So let's look at the comments on this. Let's see here. Trying to find one that's, like, not super long. From JJ Flores, hi, my father cured hundreds of thousands of people with homeopathy products, from a simple flu to gangrene, diabetes, and some types of cancer. He was self-taught, but he passed the exam from university, opens a pharmacy in the early 70s. I wanted to tell you that on the CDC website on laboratory performance characteristics, says that on page 39 says that COVID-19 is not available because it can be isolated, and for that reason, those do not exist. Now it makes a lot of sense what you are saying. What the fuck does that even mean? Not having a characteristics section on a single page on the internet does not suddenly mean a virus doesn't exist. I'm gonna slam my head into the wall. Let's see here. Oh god, we have a BitChute article. How long is this video? Holy shit, this is 2 hours or 3 hours long. Jesus Christ. Scientists prove COVID doesn't exist. Banned on YouTube. Oh my god. But of course, apparently the study that they are talking about, people weren't able to find. That's fucking funny. That's hilarious. Paladin Lost, thank you so much for gifting the 5 tier 1 subs. I don't want to continue on this topic now. We've gone into the craziness, the idea the viruses don't exist. We've shown that we've long since known that they exist. We've looked at a couple of articles going over the shit. We've looked at the methodology that was used and how it's flawed and wrong. I can't think of anything else that needs to even be brought up here. Just why? Just why? Yeah, this is a giant rabbit hole, And we could literally just dive down this all day, but there's not going to be anything to be gained from doing so. Except knowledge, I guess. Knowledge. Anyways, click. Well, that was crazy. I guess if you want to support this kind of insanity, this type of slamming my head into the wall repeatedly and expecting something to finally change, then maybe consider checking out my Patreon and other things that you can find in the description below. With that said, though, I'm gonna take a drink. So as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. If you want access to behind-the-scenes content for the channel, please consider checking out my Patreon. I do weekly vlogs over there, where I give real-life updates to what's going on behind the scenes on the channel, stuff that you don't really get over here, and even on Twitch. Patreon also helps the channel's stability a whole lot. Without Patreon, I wouldn't be able to do this at all. Especially with the kind of content that I do, neither YouTube nor Twitch are the most stable sources of income. If you are a $20 and up patron, then you will be featured on the ending slides as shown in the beginning of the end credits. If you want to catch the streams where all this content comes from, then consider heading over to Twitch and following. And if you want to continue watching over here on YouTube, maybe consider clicking one of the end screen videos. And once again, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me over on my channel. I wouldn't be able to do literally anything that I'm doing over here on YouTube without each and every one of you. So, thank you.